بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الحميد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers and sisters, I have been given the topic of Salahuddin. Now, Salahuddin is, without a doubt, one of the greatest heroes of Islam. And we only have about maybe an hour to 45 minutes. In 1 hour to 45 minutes, you can't do justice to somebody like Salahuddin. So what I'm going to do is just going to cover up a couple of incidents from his life, because I haven't got enough time to cover his whole life story. So what I'm going to do, just a couple of incidents from his life, I'm going to cover that inshallah. And now some scholars say regarding Salahuddin that they put him on the same level as the Ashab al-Badreen, the Sahabas that participated in the Battle of Badr. And the scholars say that Allah kept Salahuddin behind from the people of Badr so that Allah could give victory to the Muslims at a different place, in a different time. That is the only reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him behind from the people of Badr. Otherwise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have made him from the people of Badr. Now just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave victory to the people of Badr, He gave victory to Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi and his army. Just like the people of Badr, they sacrificed everything for the sake of Allah. Just likewise Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi, he sacrificed everything for the sake of Allah. Just like the people of Badr, they fulfilled the right of this ummah. Likewise Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi, he fulfilled the right of this ummah. Now let me give you an example of how blessed the people of Badr were. Upon occasion, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, he descended on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said to him, "Who are the most honorable people from amongst your ummah?" So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, "Alladhina shahidu badran," those people who participated in the battle of Badr. So those people who participated in the battle of Badr. And upon this, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, he said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, similarly, likewise with all the angels, out of all the angels in the heavens, the most honorable and respected angels are those who came down and descended and helped the Muslims in the battle of Badr. And at that time in the battle of Badr, there's only 313 Muslims versus 1,000 people from Mecca who were armed to their teeth, and the Muslims, they never had basic necessities of their life. They hardly had any water, food, etc. No weapons, hardly any armor, hardly any horses, anything to ride on, etc. So Muslims, they never had any the basic necessities on their life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them victory over 1,000 people who were armed to their teeth. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He never looks at the numbers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He never looks at the numbers of the people, but He looks at their hearts. That how much sincerity did this person have? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He never looks at numbers, He looks at the sincerity. So likewise, today, I want to talk about a person, which numbers never scared him. Europe threw everything at him, but they could not scare Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi. Now, upon occasion, one Sahabi who was the name of Hatib ibn Abi Balta, what happened? He was a muhajir from Mecca. He migrated to Medina, and the Prophet. What happened? There's a peace treaty between the Muslims and the people of Mecca. And one of the people of Mecca, they broke the peace treaty. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was planning to invade Mecca. And he informed the Sahaba, and this certain Sahabi, Hatib ibn Abi Balta, what he done was, he wrote a letter and he sent it to the people of Mecca, informing them of the plans of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was informed by the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, and he told three Sahaba to go to a certain place. He said to them, go to the garden of Khakh, and you will find there a woman on top of a camel. I want you to intercept. She has a letter with her, and I want you to intercept that letter and bring it back to me. So these three Sahabis, they went to the garden garden of Khakh, and exactly where the Prophet ﷺ told them, they found a woman sitting on top of a camel. And they said to her, give us that letter that you have. She said, I have no letter, I don't know what you're talking about. They said, look, the Prophet ﷺ said, you have a letter, so you must have that letter. We were search you and strip you if we have to. So what she done was, she took out from her plaques, she took out a letter and she gave it to the Sahabis. They took it back to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ, after reading the letter, he summoned Hatib and he said to him, oh Hatib, what is this? So Hatib said, before you pass any judgment on me, let me explain. He said, now every muhajir has family in Makkah. Every muhajir has family in Makkah that can, help their direct family. I do not have any family in Makkah, so what I done was I wrote a letter to the people of Makkah so my family will be protected. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you speak the truth. And Umar, he said, let me strike the neck of this munafiq. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, he said to him, oh, Umar, did he not participate in the battle of Badr? Umar said, indeed, he participated in the battle of Badr. So then upon this, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah looks favorably on the people of Badr. And then he said, i'malu ma shi'tum, laqad wajibat lakumul jannah, that do as you please, because Jannah has become compulsory upon the people of Badr. Now this was the status of the people of Badr. Now that's why many scholars, they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him behind from the people of Badr so that they could give him a victory in a different place at a different time. So like I said before, numbers was something that never scared these Sahabis, and likewise numbers did not scare Salahuddin. Europe threw everything they had at him, but they could not scare him away. Now, the testimony of this great person is the testimony to this great person is that everybody claimed him, even his arch enemies claimed him. Now, how did they claim him? It was that when the news of his bravery and compassion reached Europe, myths began to fly around. The Europeans, they couldn't believe that a non-white person, a non-European, could be so brave. So myths began to circle around that. There used to be a princess. She was captured by the Muslims, and there was a white European princess. She was captured by the Muslims, taken into captivity, and she was married off to a man called Malikin. And from that marriage, Salahuddin was born. On the other hand, the Arabs, they could not. On the other hand, the Arabs, they could not accept the fact that a non-Arab could be of such stature. So the Arabs, they started making up things also. The Arabs, they used to say that Salahuddin, they managed to trace his lineage back to the tribe of Adnan, which is obviously false. Now the Arabs, they claimed that he was one of theirs. The Europeans, they claimed that he was one of theirs, but in reality, he was neither European or neither was he an Arab. Now the Islamic history is a testimony to the fact that whenever the Muslims were in trouble, non-Arabs, they rose to the occasion and they helped the Muslims. For example, look at the Baytul Maqdis. It is in the heart of the Middle East. The Masjid Aqsa is in the heart. Jerusalem is in the heart of the Middle East. And it is surrounded by Arabs. But who were the people who liberated this place, in the Middle Ages? The Masjid al-Aqsa, who were the people who liberated Masjid al-Aqsa in the Middle Ages? It was people like Nuruddin, Imaduddin, Maudud, these were Turks, and people like Yusuf Tashfin, he was a Berber, and people like Nizamuddin Mulk, he was a Persian, and obviously last but not least, Salahuddin Ayubi rahmatullah alayhi, he was a Kurd. And Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi, he was born in the year he was born 544 years after Hijri, and 1137 Christian era, and the name of his father was Najmuddin. And his mother, she says that before, when I was pregnant with Salahuddin, I saw in my dream I was told that in your stomach you have a sword from the swords of Allah. And by coincidence, the day that Salahuddin was born, Salahuddin, he was born in the fort of Tikrit. He was born in the fort of Tikrit, and his father used to run the fort of Tikrit. And his father, by coincidence, his father was expelled from the fort of Tikrit on the exact same day he was born, because Salahuddin's uncle Shirku, what he done was he killed one of the guards because he dishonored a woman. And the Khalif of Baghdad, he did not like the family of Salahuddin, so he expelled his family from the fort. Just before I move on, in the time of Salahuddin, there were 3 caliphs. One in Spain, one in Baghdad, and one in Egypt. But history does not remember any of these caliphs. Why? Because they used to follow their desires. They never cared about the Muslims or liberating the Holy Lands from the Crusaders, but they just cared about themselves. That's why history does not remember these caliphs, but history remembers Salahuddin. That is why we are here, gathered here today to remember one of the greatest personalities of Islam, Salahuddin Ayubi. And yes, like I said, his father used to run the fort of Tikrit, and he was expelled from there, and they went to Mosul. And at a very young age, Salahuddin, he was sent to the study circles of knowledge with the scholars. And at a very young age, he memorized the Quran, and he perfected the Arabic language, and he memorized the Kitab al-Tanbih of the Shafi'i fiqh. And he was a follower of the Shafi'i fiqh, and he memorized Kitab al-Tanbih, which is one of the main books of the Shafi'i fiqh. And his greatest aspiration in life was to become a scholar. Before he was a mujahid, his greatest aspiration in life was to become a scholar. And because of this reason, throughout his whole life, he used to respect a scholar. He was a scholar himself. He was a scholar, he was a jurist himself. Now this is very important, him being a scholar. Why is it very important? Because a person who is waging a war, and he's carrying out some sort of form of worship, he should be aware of all the rulings with regards to that form of worship. And especially if he's a commander, he should know the rules and the rulings regarding war and peace and prisoners, etc., etc. So Salahuddin, he was aware of all these rulings because he was also a scholar. And Ibn Shaddad, rahmatullah alayh, he was a very famous scholar and a famous historian. He was one of the most closest people to Salahuddin. He was the biographer of the life of Salahuddin. He was Salahuddin's biographer. And so obviously he wrote his biography in Arabic, but just recently his book has been published into English, and the name of that book is The Rare and Excellent History of Salahuddin. The Rare and Excellent History of Salahuddin, just been recently published into English, the whole biography of Salahuddin. And upon occasion, Ibn Shaddad was traveling with Salahuddin, and Salahuddin said to him, "Oh Abu Shaddad, do you know that there are people on this earth to whom gold and dirt is the same thing? Gold and dirt is the same, are both equivalent in the eyes of some people." Now Ibn Shaddad, he said, immediately I knew that he was talking about himself. So how did I know that he was talking about himself? That because Salahuddin, what happened was he became a king, and when he became a king, you inherit from the previous king, and the previous king, his name was Adid, and he left behind him a massive palace with 4,000 rooms and 12,000 occupants. And Salahuddin, he never lived in this palace for a single day, but he refused to live in this palace, and he divided the palace with his men. And Salahuddin, in terms of his patience, when his son passed away, when the son of Salahuddin passed away, what happened was, he was on the battlefield, and he received the news of his son passing away. And what he done, obviously he began to cry. And narration mentioned that the people, they could tell something was wrong with Salahuddin, but he never expressed it to anybody. They could tell that something was wrong because tears were flowing down his cheeks. But after that, he mounted onto his horse, and he went into battle, and it was and the way he fought in the battle was as if nothing had happened. It was the same Salahuddin that they knew. But this was the patience of Salahuddin. And regarding his compassion, when he captured Al-Quds, when he captured Jerusalem from the Crusaders, and the Crusaders fled, and they went to a nearby town or nearby city that was ruled by a fellow Christian, and the name of the city was Antioch. And now the Crusaders, they had just lost the crusade, and they fled. Now they were